Hello everyone, it's James from Keeping It Anime, and today we're talking episode 35 of Bungo Stray Dogs, entitled Cannibalism Part 2. So then, this episode, we have some brilliant character background, we have some amazing matchups, some good character perspectives in terms of what they've been through, and a great cliffhanger ending that builds up some good hype for the upcoming episode to go forth. So, we continue on from last week's episode, where we find the detective agency basically talking to each other about how they're going to move forward. And it turns out that they're splitting up into two groups. One group is going off to fight the Port Mafia against their boss's wishes, while the other group, consisting of Atashi and Kunikida, is going off to find Fredor in order to stop the mastermind and take the cannibalism ability, making it stop so that no one has to fight. And this scene altogether was amazing for two characters in particular. Character number one, Rampu. And we all know that he's a great character, a great detective, and he's good in pretty much any situation that you put him in. And in this situation, he showed that he's got the characteristics of a great leader. He can make good decisions, like we all know, because he's a detective, but he can also lead, and he's quite charismatic. He manages to convince quite a few of the members to join him in taking on the Port Mafia. He even shows that he's brave and cunning, because he even goes as far as facing Chuya in this episode, even after pressing the Dazai button. And we all know, guys, that with Chuya, you don't press the Dazai button. Ever. Because if you do, he goes into a rage, and, your chances of surviving his gravity are pretty slim. And the other character that this scene does wonders for is, in fact, Kunikida himself. We saw in last week's episode that Fredor was Kunikida, main target. I said that backwards. Kunikida was Fredor's main target. And basically, the fact that we had last week, those children, that girl that Kunikida couldn't save, and that is weighing heavily on this character, and it shows in this episode. He's looking like a broken, defeated person while everyone is trying to decide what they're doing. And it's only after Atashi goes to Katai's apartment that we see Kunikida basically standing up and doing something instead of wallowing in self-pity. So, from his character point of view, it's great to see, and from the fact that we got more information and good villain kind of progress from Fredor, targeting one of our main strong characters to try and break him, was also great to see the effects of that coming forth. Now, real quick, let's talk about Katai. Katai in this episode is said to have been erased. Nope, I don't mean the anime series erased, I mean the fact that we see him early on in this episode lying down on his futon and getting shot by Fredor. And basically, Kunikida tells everyone this, and this basically upsets pretty much everyone in the detective agency's side. So, do we think that he's really dead? No. Because two reasons. Why would Fredor basically move the body? The only reason I can think that Fredor would move the body after killing him would be to brainwash him and manipulate him in order to basically become like the guy that he brainwashed to fight Akutagawa in last week's episode. Or the week before. And yeah, so he could come back brainwashed, so we could have brainwashed Katai on the demon side. Or, he might have escaped to try and get medical help. However, I think if he got medical help, then I don't think Fredor would allow him to leave. But maybe, I don't know. I don't think he's dead. Put it that way. So then, like I said earlier, Rampu versus Chuya. So Chuya gets pretty mad and tries to strike Rampu. This leads to Rampu using an ability not his own, where he can trap someone inside of a novel. And if you remember, there was a former guild member that currently hangs around Rampu in this series that appeared in Season 2, working under the guild. And he too could trap people inside novels, and it's revealed to us that he was the one that wrote this book. This book that Rampu and Chuya get trapped in is called Black Cat in the Rue Mogul, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'll have the image of the book on screen so you can read the title yourself. But anyway, judging from this former guild member, this book took him a while to put together, and it stated that the book should take Chuya and even Rampu several days to complete in order to escape the actual book. And Rampu's kind of goal in all this was to stall Chuya and to get him off the table, because he knew that Chuya would be a bad piece to go up against in order to kind of help the agency basically have more of a chance at winning. Like, Akutagawa is someone that's really kind of detrimental to the Port Mafia, that is consists of most of their power, and Chuya suddenly would just wreck everybody on the Armed Detective Agency side. So Rampu's thinking was take care of Chuya, and the rest should be somewhat manageable. So from a trade-off point of view, that was actually really clever and really good, and is true to Rampu's character. But I can see kind of within this story those two kind of bonding almost. But then I can see there being a comedy segment where Rampu's like figuring out way too quickly to the point where stalling probably would have been pointless at the end of the day. But yeah, that was a good scene, and I like the fact that Rampu had the jellies to do that. So then, we then get to another fight that was pretty decent in this episode, and I absolutely loved it, more so for the information that we were given and the bonding of two characters than the actual battle itself. But we'll talk about the fight first. So, Keuka versus Akutagawa. This is a fight that I low-key wanted to see, but I didn't think we would get. However, we did, and it turns out that Sayayuki is actually a bad matchup against Rashomon. It turns out physical attacks wouldn't affect Sayayuki. So Akutagawa was in a sticky situation, and almost got killed by Keuka if it wasn't for his demon armor. So Keuka almost took out one of the top dogs in the Port Mafia. Good for her. But then the real reveal comes in this fight, and that is the fact that Keuka states she's not the same person that Akutagawa thinks she is. And Akutagawa does actually acknowledge this. He says that basically, your eyes are different than when I first met you. And we see those two first reactions when they first meet, and it's Keuka basically asking, Akutagawa, you can cut anything, right? If so, please cut down Sayayuki, and then cut down the user of her, meaning herself. Back when they first met, Akutagawa states that Keuka was full of vengeance and hatred towards her ability. And we know this from the previous seasons. However, we actually get this acknowledged from Akutagawa. But the fact is, those two characters are pretty similar, thanks to the story that Akutagawa also told us. Because he tells Keuka of a boy that too was full of revenge and hatred, and he too found a group to call his home, and that helped him on his path to becoming a better person. And I absolutely love the visuals that we have of these two characters. They're both quite young, especially Akutagawa in this flashback, but the fact that their eyes are all kind of red and kind of crazy looking, and they all just look like they just hate everything, was very aesthetically pleasing. Also helped the fact that when we saw Akutagawa quite young, we had Dazai who found him, and Dazai just looks creepily happy in this scene. Whether or not he's planning for future events, I don't know, but the fact that Dazai made an appearance there, it just shows us more information about these two characters, and that just helps build their characters up to be even greater than what they already are. Anyway, the two kind of leave with minor injuries, and that's that. The big reveal, the big be-all end-all at the end of this episode, was the fact that both bosses are now up and running and are still affected by the cannibalism ability, but they've met in secret, and a place where not any of the members of both parties would be able to find them. It's a place where they both stated that they would meet up without communication if anything were needed to be discussed by the two. And it built up to the fact that both bosses are going to fight it out to see who deserves to live after this ability has taken one of the other. Now, I will stand by what I've said in my past reviews, and that is the Armed Detective Agency's boss is going to go down. It just makes more sense from a story point of view. Mori seems like a character that you can kind of reason with, as long as it benefits him. And if getting rid of Fredor or the guild benefits him, which it would 100% do, then I can see Mori teaming up with the detective agency. Or allowing them to team up with him. As well as the fact is we got Dazai in the mix. Dazai is a member of the Port Mafia, as a former member, and is also now a member of the Armed Detective Agency. So that bridge between Dazai and Mori is still there and can still be connected. Or re-establish, however you want to look at it. So having the Armed Detective Agency's boss go down in this episode would add to the impact and the feels of all the characters and the emotion of the series. I just think, it would work out pretty decent. Plus, I do kind of think we are going to see someone fall at this episode, next episode, or the episode afterwards. Because if you look at the outro, and I know you can't put the outros from their face values, because sometimes they can mislead you, but we see Dazai in front of a gravestone. This might be his best friend that we saw flashbacks to and episodes from in Season 2, or this might be one of the bosses. So going forward into next week's episode, I want to see some good fight action, and I want to see some great character backstory from these two characters, because it was also hinted at and revealed to us that these two were actually comrades at one point. So I want to see what broke them up as comrades, what changed the other to go their separate ways. How did it happen? Why were they teaming up? Now, these are some questions that I want to be answered next week, or the upcoming episodes to come. If there's anything you guys want to know, or anything that I've missed, then let me know in the comment section down below. I look forward to hearing everything that you guys have to say, and overall, this episode was fantastic. I like the part 1 a little bit better from a hype point of view, but don't let that deceive you, because this episode, again, gave you some brilliant stuff. Animation, flawless throughout, brilliant, good use of effects. Music, again, great effects used, and music's always been a good thing for the series. Plot is progressing nicely. What more can you ask for in an episode than that? So there you have it, guys. That's going to do it for this review. If you've enjoyed, smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new so you never miss a video from me. And until next time, I hope you have an amazing day. And, well, keep it anime. See you later. Goodbye.